In this demo, I'm going to demonstrate how to enable Multisite. So first thing you want to do is go into cPanel in File Manager, click on WP Config, and then add in the line define allow Multisite true. Save changes, and then once you're back in the dashboard, you can go to Tools, Network Setup. Okay, so this says deactivate plugins. So we have 18 that are active. So the easy way is to look at the ones that are inactive and go ahead and remove them. Or at least the ones that we know that we're never going to use. So we're going to do bulk action, deactivate, apply. Now that everything is deactivated, go back to Tools, Network Setup. And in this case, the theme is requiring certain plugins to be active. So the way that we're going to get around that, go into WP Content, click on Plugins, rename. Now when we click on plugins, we see that everything has been deactivated. Now we can go into Tools, Network Setup, and click on Install. So now we're going to get some information that we need to put in WP config and htaccess. Okay, so since we just came from WP config, first thing we're going to do is copy this area. And then click Save Changes. The next thing we're going to do is copy this area to put into the htaccess. So what we can do at this point is either make a backup or simply comment the information out. So we're going to write directly over this, but we're just going to put a pound sign in front of everything. That way we can keep everything in a single file. And not have to worry about previous rules. Okay, once the changes are in here, save changes. And now that our changes are saved, we can log out. And log back in. Once we log back in, you're going to notice My Sites. Now everything is under Network Administration. And since we had to rename the plugins folder, we're going to go ahead and plug that back in. And when there are plugins that are already activated and you want to go straight back to it, that's actually the simplest way to disable everything. And then once you rename it back, it will automatically reactivate everything. So now the folder has been renamed. We're going to go back into the dashboard, click on plugins, and we can almost activate all of them, but since we manually deactivated, we can just go back into recently active, do the check all, and click on activate. Now the next thing we need to do is enable domain mapping. So now that we are in network, we no longer have the ability to add from the site. We go into network admin, plugins. Click on add new. And install domain mapping. Click on network activate. And it should give us a warning or some type of notification telling us to copy sunrise. So from settings, go into domain mapping. So this line right here says we're copying sunrise into WP content. So while we have file manager open, go into plugins, domain mapping, click on sunrise, then click on copy, and we're going to back it up all the way to WP content and copy file. Now when we click on domain mapping, now the next step is to add define sunrise on to the WP config. So just copy that little section right there. Click Save Changes. And now domain mapping is complete. Now we have our options, and to make everything simple, we're just going to use CNAME. So we'll add the domain in there and click Save. But the other option is to use server IP address. The way you can obtain that, go to whatsmydns.net and then run a search. And put the IP address in there. Now keep in mind that you can only use one or the other, and since the IP address has been listed in there, then that's going to override the CNAME. But that's all there is to it to set up domain mapping, save changes, and now whenever we want to map a domain to any of the sites, we go to cPanel, add on domains, and then from here it's just a matter of adding in the domains. One thing that's very important is the information is going to be auto-filled in for you, and by default the document root is going to be the domain name. Since we're doing domain mapping, we actually need to remove that so that way it goes straight to public HTML. Now if Multisite was inside of a directory, then we would change that to whatever the root folder is. but in this case it's going to be public HTML. Add domain. So now that we have the domain added, we can go into domain mapping, domains, and simply add the domain that we want to add with the site ID. Now, instead of doing it from network admin, it's a lot easier to create a new site and then add the domain in that way. But since we don't have any sites in yet, we can just save that for later. That includes this tutorial, and the next video is going to show you how to clone the original site into one of the sub-sites in case you need to work from the original, or if you need a clone to do some quick modifications or for testing.